The room erupted with laughter, but I felt like I had been punched in the gut. Maya, my wife, the woman I had loved and trusted for years, just humiliated me in front of all our friends. She swirled the wine in her glass, smirking as she leaned back on the couch. "Oh, come on, Evan," she giggled. "It's just a joke. Everyone here knows you aren't exactly, well, satisfying." The laughter was hesitant now, awkward. A few people exchanged glances, some looking away entirely. My hands clenched into fists under the table. I forced a smile, my jaw tight. "Yeah," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "Just a joke." But inside I was burning. Something felt off. This wasn't just a joke. The way she said it, the way she laughed, it was almost like she wanted to say it out loud. And suddenly, I needed to know why the car ride home was silent. Maya scrolled through her phone, barely acknowledging my existence. The laughter from the party still echoed in my head, twisting my stomach. I gripped the steering wheel tighter, my knuckles turning white. "So," I finally said, keeping my voice even, "what was that back there?" Maya sighed dramatically, rolling her eyes. "Oh, Evan, don't be so sensitive. It was just a joke." "Right," I muttered. "A joke about how I'm not satisfying you?" She shrugged, still not looking up. "It's not like it's a secret." A lump formed in my throat. Not a secret? What the hell did that mean? My mind raced back over the past few months. The way she had been distant, the sudden obsession with going to the gym, the new perfume she didn't wear around me. Late nights at work. Friends I had never heard of before. My gut twisted. I didn't want to believe it. But something wasn't right. We pulled into the driveway, and Maya grabbed her bag without another word, heading inside. I sat in the car for a long moment, staring at her house. A house that suddenly didn't feel like a home. I wasn't stupid. People don't say things like that unless there's something behind it. I had seen too many stories like this, heard too many warnings from my friends who had gone through ugly breakups. When a woman starts making jokes about her husband's performance, it's because she's already comparing him to someone else. I needed to know the truth. That night, as Maya showered, I did something I had never done before. I picked up her phone. Her birthday was her password. She always rolled her eyes when I told her to pick something more secure. I hesitated, my hands shaking, before I typed it in. And then my world fell apart. My hands were clammy as I scrolled through her messages. I wasn't sure what I was expecting, maybe some flirty texts, something vague that I could still pretend wasn't what it seemed. But what I found was worse. So much worse. A chat thread with a name I didn't recognize, Adrian. I tapped it open, and my breath caught in my throat. Messages stretching back months. Late-night conversations, inside jokes I misuse. Then the photos. A few selfies of them together in dimly lit restaurants. Her, leaning into him, smiling in a way I hadn't seen in months. And then, the ones that made my stomach lurch, her in lingerie, taken in a room I didn't recognize. Her in our bed, but with him. I nearly dropped the phone. The shower was still running upstairs, oblivious to the storm brewing just outside. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself, but my heart pounded in my ears. I had two choices: pretend I never saw this, or confront her now, head-on. The water stopped. My time was up. Maya walked into the bedroom, towel wrapped around her, rubbing her hair dry. She barely glanced at me before heading toward her dresser. "What's wrong with you?" she asked, noticing the look on my face. I held up her phone. Her expression didn't change at first. Then, she saw the open messages. And she froze. "Explain," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. She swallowed hard. "Evan, why are you going through my phone?" I let out a hollow laugh. That's her first response? Not an apology, not a denial, just indignation that I had caught her. "Answer the question, Maya," I snapped. "Who the hell is Adrian?" She opened her mouth, then shut it. The color drained from her face. "Don't bother lying," I continued, standing up. "I saw the pictures. The videos. I know everything." Her lips trembled, and for the first time, I saw panic in her eyes. "Evan," she started, stepping toward me, It's not what you think. I backed away. Really? Because what I think is that my wife has been sleeping with another man for months. And what I know is that you stood in front of our friends tonight and humiliated me, knowing damn well you were cheating on me. She opened and closed her mouth, grasping for words that wouldn't come. I shook my head, a bitter laugh escaping my lips. You didn't just insult me, Maya. You were mocking me in front of them because you had already replaced me. Her face twisted in guilt. Evan, I never meant for it to happen like this. I stared at her, barely recognizing the woman in front of me. Oh? And how exactly did you mean for it to happen? She bit her lip. I wasn't happy, Evan. My stomach twisted. So, instead of talking to me, you ran off and started sleeping with someone else? And then you stood in front of our friends and made me look like the joke. Tears welled up in her eyes. I didn't mean to hurt you. I exhaled sharply. But you did. Over and over again. She wiped her eyes, shaking her head. No, I cut her off. We're done, Maya. The words felt final, even as they left my lips. I wasn't making a threat. I wasn't asking for an explanation. I was done. Maya's face crumpled, and for the first time, real fear set in. Wait. Evan, please. Let's talk about this. We can fix this. I shook my head. There's nothing left to fix. I grabbed a bag and started throwing clothes into it. Where are you going? She asked, voice cracking. I didn't look at her. Somewhere you're not. She stepped closer, reaching for me, but I moved past her. Evan, please. Save it, Maya, I said, my voice empty. Go call Adrian. Maybe he can give you what you need. And with that, I walked out, leaving her standing there, crying, in the wreckage of what she had destroyed. The cold night air hit me as I stepped outside, but I barely felt it. My hands gripped the duffel bag so tightly that my knuckles turned white. My mind was spinning, but my heart had settled into a strange, eerie calm. There was no screaming match, no dramatic begging, no drawn-out fight. Just the simple, crushing reality that my marriage was over. I got in my car, slammed the door shut, and just sat there. My phone buzzed on the passenger seat, Maya. I ignored it. Then another message. And another. I picked up the phone and glanced at the screen. Evan, please come back. I let out a hollow laugh. Come back? For what? To pretend everything was fine? To let her gaslight me into thinking this was somehow my fault? No, not this time. Instead, I started the car and drove. I didn't know where I was going, but I knew I couldn't stay there. Not in that house, not with her. My mind played back the night in painful flashes. Maya at the party. The way she laughed as she humiliated me. The way our friends shifted uncomfortably but said nothing. And then the images on her phone. The texts, the videos. I gritted my teeth. How long had I been a fool? I pulled into a cheap motel parking lot, booked a room, and dropped onto the stiff mattress. The weight of everything came crashing down at once, but strangely, there were no tears. Just exhaustion. The next morning, I woke up to dozens of missed calls and texts from Maya. I'm sorry. Please come home. Let's talk. No, I thought. I wasn't falling for it. I'd spent years putting her needs above mine, making excuses for her, looking past the red flags. This wasn't an argument we could talk our way out of. This was betrayal. Instead of responding, I called a lawyer. I wasn't going to let Maya string me along with empty promises and manipulation. I wanted this to be over as soon as possible. By the afternoon, I went back to the house, not to talk, but to take what was mine. When I walked in, she was sitting on the couch, red-eyed and disheveled. She jumped up the second she saw me. Evan, she breathed, relief in her voice, as if I had come back to forgive her. I held up a hand. I'm not here to talk. Her face crumpled. Please, just let me explain. I ignored her and headed straight for the bedroom, grabbing my suitcase and stuffing it with my clothes. She followed me, desperation creeping into her voice. I was drunk, Evan. I didn't mean what I said at the party. It was a stupid joke. I stopped, turning to face her. You filmed yourself with him, Maya. Her mouth snapped shut. Tears welled up in her eyes again, but I wasn't moved. I filed for divorce this morning, I said, zipping up my bag. Her breath hitched. You already filed? Yeah, I said, slinging the bag over my shoulder. I'm not going to be the idiot who sticks around and pretends none of this happened. She grabbed my arm, eyes wide. Evan, please, I made a mistake. I don't want to lose you. I looked at her, really looked at her for the first time since I found out. And all I saw was a stranger. You lost me a long time ago, I said, shaking her off. I walked out the door without looking back. The moment I stepped outside, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Freedom. A week passed. A week of silence, of dodging Maya's desperate calls, of ignoring the half-hearted apologies she left in voicemails. I could hear the panic in her voice, the fear creeping in as she realized I wasn't coming back. She tried everything, sweet messages, angry accusations, even guilt-tripping. But I didn't bite. Then came the day when the divorce papers landed on her desk. That's when everything shifted. I was at my lawyer's office when I got the text. Evan, what the hell is this? Are you seriously going through with this? I didn't answer. A minute later, another one came. This isn't fair. You're throwing everything away over one mistake? One mistake? I clenched my jaw.
She still didn't get it.
I texted back. Check your email. She read the message instantly. No reply. But I knew she was opening the email, the one where I attached every piece of evidence I had. Screenshots of her messages to Adrian. The hotel receipts. The videos. The timeline that showed just how deep her betrayal went. I stared at the 3 little dots on my phone screen as she typed, deleted, typed again. Then finally, the response came through. Evan, please. Don't do this. I let out a cold breath. Too late. Maya wasn't used to consequences. She had spent years getting away with little manipulations, with twisting reality to fit her narrative. But not this time. I had taken my name off our joint accounts before she could drain them. I had moved into a new apartment while she was still scrambling to figure out her next move. And the house, the one she thought she could keep after humiliating me, that was mine. She hadn't realized it, but when we refinanced the mortgage last year, I had ensured that my name was the only one on the deed. So when she tried to argue that she should stay in the house, she was met with a rude awakening. What do you mean it's not in my name? She shrieked at the lawyer over the phone. I smirked as I packed the last of my things. Means you need to start looking for a new place. You can't do this to me, she sobbed. I have nowhere to go. Figure it out, Maya. You figured out how to cheat. You can figure this out too. She tried everything, threats, begging, promising she'd make it up to me. But I was done. The day she had to leave, I made sure I was there to watch. I stood in the doorway as she shoved her things into suitcases, her face a mess of tears and frustration. This is so unfair, she mumbled. I gave you everything, Evan. And you're throwing it away over some stupid fling. I tilted my head. You mean the 5-month affair? She went quiet. Her hands trembled as she zipped up her bag. I was going to stop, she whispered. I laughed. Yeah? Before or after you got caught? She didn't answer. As she walked past me, dragging her suitcase behind her, she stopped at the door. You'll regret this, she said quietly. I met her gaze, calm and unshaken.
No, Maya.
You will. She walked out. And just like that, she was gone. The silence that followed wasn't sad. It wasn't heavy. It was freeing. I stepped back inside, looking around the house that had once been ours. Now it was just mine. I grabbed a beer, sat on the couch, and took a deep breath. For the first time in a long time, I felt at peace.